Hi, I'm Rick Dior. Today we're going to talk about setting up for a Broadway show as a percussionist. So I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been here about 30 years. Before that, I lived in New York City and New Jersey my whole life. And while I was in New York, I got to sub on some Broadway shows. I used to go sit in the pit when a friend was playing or a teacher was playing a Broadway show. So I had a lot of experience before I moved here. And then when I moved here, I started playing shows for a contractor. And then over all these years, I've played probably 50 or 60 different shows, probably more. I lost count. And all the touring shows that come in other words, there's national and even international tours that come in, and they can be from 1 week to 6 weeks or sometimes even 2 months of a show that stays in town. And you are the percussionist. So they don't travel with the percussionist. Now they do travel normally with the drummer, and I have played drums on some shows like Carole King's the Carole King show, Beautiful, and things like that. In that case, the drummer had hurt himself a week before, so I just filled in on drums, and a student of mine played percussion. So that happens, but rarely. So you know about these shows probably about a couple months before you're booked on them, and then you'll get these advance books about maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the show comes in. So you have lots of time to look at the book, and hopefully there's a recording. Sometimes even they'll send a video of the conductor conducting it, which is really, really helpful. Now these shows travel with a conductor, a music director. Sometimes that person will play keyboards. They'll usually travel with a drummer, like I said, sometimes a guitar player, and a lot of times 1 or 2 keyboard players. And that's it. The rest of the musicians are locals. So there's a lot of lucrative work in this locally. And each city has their core of players who have a lot of experience. And so the show comes in. A lot of times it's the same conductor, so you know them. And over the years you actually build up a professional relationship with them, which is really nice. So what they'll do is they'll send you. Oh, by the way, this show, if I didn't say it already, is Wicked. I've played this show 3 or 4 times already, so it's well over 100 shows I've played. And it was supposed to be here last year, but because of COVID, it got canceled, just like everything did. And now it's coming back that COVID has eased up a bit. And they're back on tour, and so this is going to be happening in about a month or so. So they'll send you a sheet, and I'll post this on the screen, of all the instruments you need. And if you don't own these, you need to get them, because they do not bring much at all with them. There are a few things for this show, because there's some really kind of strange instruments and unique instruments, and they will bring those, and you'll see that on the screen. They also send you an advance book, which obviously is extremely helpful, and that looks like this. It's actually an exact book of the show. It's usually smaller, and what I'll do is I'll copy this, and I'll blow it up, because my eyesight is not what it used to be. And that looks like that. So just a little bit bigger, 11 by 17, and I cut it down. And then do all my own markings and tunings and all that. Now as far as setup goes, they do send you sometimes a setup diagram, but you do not have to stick to that. If you can, do it, because it makes it easier on the sound people, because that's what they're used to. But if you play German style instead of American style on timpani, you'll have to do that. And also, if you're a lefty, you might have different instruments in different places. And also, things work different. Everybody has a different way of working. So don't hesitate to customize your setup. Every once in a while, I'll get a little pushback from them. But, if they want you to do a good job, you need to be comfortable. And that's really important. So the sound folks can deal with it. That's the way I like to look at it. So what we'll do today is we will show you, or I will show you, how to set up all this. The lighting's not great in this room. I kind of keep it kind of dark because this is my staging room. When I built my recording studio, I built this room just for this purpose. So it was big enough to set up for these shows, because I normally do 4 or 5 of these a year. It ends up being about a quarter of my income, so it's very lucrative. Real quick, I'll pick up this camera, and I will give you a quick little tour of this room. This is where I keep all my snare drums and other percussion equipment. So lots of stuff in this room. And it's a big room with a high ceiling. Sounds good. But again, the lighting's not great, so I apologize for that. Also for the audio today, I will be using this video camera, and so that will fluctuate a little, but you should be able to hear just fine. So what we'll do is we'll start out with the rough in, and the rough in are all the big instruments. So we'll show you that real quick. I've already brought them into play here. So that's a vibraphone. This is a Pro Vibe. It's a Musser. And right here you see my stand that I'm going to put the Glock on. And here will be the xylophone. And then the chimes will go in this corner. There's the chimes. By the way, these are really old, great Deegan chimes. These were invented or created for pit percussionists. So they're short, which is great because I'm short. I'm about 5'7", so I can actually see over them. One of these tubes came off here. And they're extremely portable, and they sound great, but they're a little bit smaller than regular chimes. Also for this show, I'm going to be hanging some percussion instruments off of this bar. There's a lot of little stuff on here. So as you see from the list, I'll put it up here again. You can see all the instruments, and there's a lot of big ones. So we'll set all these up, we'll rough it in, and then what I'll do is I'll go over it. I'll show you each thing, and I'll give you the reasoning why I'm putting things where I'm putting them. And then what we'll do in a separate video is I will actually record some things of me playing the show. Hopefully I won't get sued for copyright issues, but you know, I'll show you me playing some more of the challenging tunes so you can actually see the choreography and understand the setups. So we'll be back. So let's start out with the main front setup. I normally like the larger mallet instrument, in this case the vibraphone, to be in front of me. Sometimes it's the xylophone on certain shows, but in this case there's a lot of vibes in this show. And it's the biggest mallet instrument, so we're going to start with that. Now I build these little racks so I can stack the mallet instruments. This is just cheap Luan. You can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot or really any hardware store. You can buy it in sheets of 4 foot by 8 foot, or they can cut it down for you. This is just if you buy inexpensive doors, this is what they're made out of. It's great for building lightweight little trays. And you see what I did there? I just took an old, we'll come around here. I apologize for the shaky camera work while we're doing this video, but that's probably the only way we can get it done. So we'll go under there, and you'll see I just took an old mount from, I believe this was from an old Roland Octopad, and maybe it's from a stool. So some of the old stools have these mounts. And what I did was I took a clamp and put it on there. It's bolted onto this stand, and just a very heavy-duty old Tama cymbal stand with the legs all the way out, because the glockenspiels are heavy. The one I'm going to use, well, I'm going to try a couple different ones, but the one I think I'm going to use is about 60 pounds. So. And then this back rack here, this back piece of wood, tilts a little, but I normally like to have it flat. When you tilt a glockenspiel, sometimes the bars will be a little more dead because of the fact that you're tilting it forward and it's resting on the felt. All right. Now, the most important thing that you have to think about is the location of your music stands. And what I do is I use 2 of them, and I'll use a rack. So the rack looks like this. Let me grab it real quick. And again, made from Luan, very lightweight, very inexpensive. And I put that on the stands. So 2 stands, the rack floats in there. The issue you're always going to deal with are page turns. A lot of times you can't turn pages, so you have to lay out 4 or 5 pages at a time because there's no time to turn pages. You're running around playing everything. You could use, I guess, something like an iPad and with foot switches and things like that. But I've tried that, and every once in a while something will go wrong, and then it's a disaster. So I'm doing it the old-fashioned way still. All right, so then we have our rack, our music rack, and then the Glock will go here, and the vibes are under there. So here you see the setup with the stand. I used 3 lights. These are these old Mighty Bright LED lights. I always use LED lights now. the old incandescents, all kinds of problems all the time. They'd start flickering during the show, and these are great. So they've been a real lifesaver. I'll use 3 or 4 of those on the stand. You see how I can spread out the music here. And then this Glock that I'm using is just a regular old muster. It does have a damper. You see there's a tune in the show called Popular. And what happens is you want to be able to mute the bells because it calls for that. So, and now you hear the sound. So there's another way to do that where you can put a piece of felt under these accidentals and get the bottoms and the tops, but then you got to take time to do that and then take it out. So this is much quicker. And these are not bad sounding bells. It's the same model 645, I think it is, that I showed you if I've posted it in that Glockenspiel video. The only problem with these is this handle. I wish they would have made it removable. I may take it off, take out these rivets and then, but it's not such a big deal. It shouldn't be in the way. And then you see how the vibraphone here is under the bells. So all I'll be able to play on is the accidentals on the ends. They're still shooting off fireworks here. That's what that was. So on the ends of the bars, you have to play. That's just one of the things that makes it tricky. There's trade-offs. All right? But so this is the first thing, like I said, you want to set up. This is the beginning of the setup. Now here, the next thing we're going to do is put Cortalis. Luckily, I have pictures of my past setups, so this is going to be sort of easy. I remember the first time I set it up, they sent a diagram. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll post it so you can take a look at it here. It is crazy the way it looked, so I kind of came up with my own setup. All right, so the next thing you'll see is the Cortalis and maybe the xylophone in place. So now you see the chimes to my left. I know you can see just a little of that. We'll show you this with this handheld camera. See that little ring light there? Sorry about that. And then here are the Cortalis. Give you a better shot of that. So this show has several passages where you're going right from Cortalis to Glockenspiel. Sometimes you're playing them at the same time. So they have to be almost layered. These are my really old Zildjian Cortalis. They need to be cleaned. And you'll see here I put a tilter on them so I can tilt them down a little. So that's something that helps. Again, positioning is the most important thing for these shows. And see if we can give you a little bit of a wider view here. Yeah, there's our fisheye view. So this is what we got so far. We got the chimes, and then we got the Glock, the vibes, and the Cortalis. And then next we'll put the xylophone, and that's going to go right here. And then we can start setting up the timpani, and then there's a big concert bass drum in this show. So we'll get out of that fisheye view. But it's important that you see the heights. I'll just try to show you. That's the height clearance between the vibes and the Glock. It's very close. And I'm a short player. For those of you who are pretty tall, this will obviously be different. Okay? And one other thing, if you can see this, the whole show, the chimes are weighted down with this little stage weight. The pedal is always closed. There is also a way to close the chimes with this switch, but it's not reliable. So if you hit that pedal by accident, it'll pop up and then you go for a chime solo and then it's dead, which is very embarrassing. So see how they're always open, and then I dampen with my hands. Can't do that with all shows, but with this show, it works well. Okay, so I got the temps in place. And then you see the gong. That's a 28-inch Wuhan gong. And this is a 28-inch Majestic bass drum. I'm just going to use this to rehearse with. I also have a 32. I'll probably use that for the gig. And then I have the xylophone in place. I also set up my other camera so you have a wide angle view. So let me put this down for a second. So you can see here, this is in the picture, that I have the chimes. And a lot of times you need to move real fast and have one chime mallet, one Glock mallet, one timpani mallet, one chime mallet, that kind of thing. So everything needs to be in a circular kind of setup, so it's easy to get to. Now, pretty much always I put the timpani on my left. That's almost always. So I'm just used to playing them that way. I can also look this way if I need to see the conductor in person, or there could be a little screen up here. For this particular musical, there's a lot of giant bass drum and gong unisons. So I have this bass drum and it rolls, so I can roll it towards me or away from me. And you see this xylophone here. And this I may move a little closer. I'm going to pick up this other camera again. So I may move this xylophone closer to here once I start practicing. I can't remember. It's been 5 years, so I can't remember how close it was. That's a 3-octave xylophone there. And this is a Kelon xylophone, so it's a Musser, so it's not rosewood. These are good xylophones for shows. Everything's mic'd anyway, so this speaks really well, and there's really no room for a big stand or anything, or a 3.5-octave instrument. And I think pretty much everything in this show fits on this instrument. Sometimes you have to leave out a note if there's a low F or something like that, or B flat. And then also I discovered, I looked at the advanced books and they had crossed the congas out. So it just says bongos. I have a feeling space is going to be an issue in this pit. So I got rid of the congas and we're just going to use bongos. And this is the frame, like I keep saying. And we're going to do an ultra wide angle lens, and I'm going to move back here and we'll do the old fisheye. Sorry about that. Okay, so you can see the vantage point from the bass drum all the way back. It's about 12 feet from the stand all the way back to the bass drum, maybe a little more. And this is, again, the frame. And then what I do is I start placing my cymbal stands and my little percussion stuff. So you'll see a bunch of stuff attached to the chime stand soon in the next clip, as well as some trays with mallets and other small percussion instruments. So it's a couple hours later and I've got pretty much everything set up, except I don't have all my mallets out. But I've got all the small stuff out. And what we'll do a separate video where I talk about the separate instruments. Some of these you might not have seen. I'll set up some better mics, so if I hit something it won't distort. But you see all this small kind of effects percussion. So we'll do that with some good mics. And I do have to set up all my mallets and everything else. So we'll take a little tour with this other camera here real quick. And first we'll go to a wide angle so you can see the setup. And sorry about the lighting, it's a little bit dark in here. But you'll see, and I did also set up a monitor because I'm going to see if I can get a video of this pit conductor conducting. And we're just going in a circle here, xylophone, and in back of me is the bass drum. So I'm pretty much encircled by percussion. And we'll take some close-ups. This is for me as well, or the next person who does this. All right, so let's take a closer look. Here's a trap table, a few things on there, goat bell, maraca, sleigh bells, little kashishi, some more goat bells, the gong with the beater hanging on it, 2 timpani, 29, 26. These are the older Adams pedals. These are good drums, copper kettles. And then just some things here. little rattle, wooden rattle, cricket, claves, some cocoons, chime mallets, bell plate here, an 18-inch cymbal, wind chimes, shells, more cocoons. Here's a horn, which we won't blow now, but it is loud as hell. These are some zill, bell tree number 1, triangle. Obviously, you know what the glockenspiel is, vibes. Down below we have a waterphone, which is pretty prominent in this show, a shekere, and here we have some wood. These are different pitched wood blocks, a small rain stick, talking drum, orchestra tambourine, bongos, some shakers, flexotone, hand tambourine, another triangle, Cortalis, a mounted tambourine, and a 16-inch smaller cymbal. And then the xylophone, and a bass drum with a stand for mallets. And over here we have another trap table with a ratchet that's mounted, and more cocoons that are, I call these hooves. A siren whistle, cowbell. These are going to be sand blocks, slide whistle, and like I said, another bell tree. I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff, but as I go through the book again, I will remember and grab everything. So the good thing about owning all your own equipment is you don't need to go out and find it. Basically, I just went upstairs and grabbed this and brought it down here, and good to go. So I hope this helps with setups. And again, on this show, we'll be doing a number of videos. I'm going to see if I can take one down in a pit if no one catches me, because that'll be pretty fun. It's pretty dark down there, so I don't know if anything will come out. But I will take some videos of me practicing the show for sure, so you can see what's involved. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.